Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Gemini for August 2016. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, see what's new on my blog. I write about astrology and other topics. And while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. So what is going on in the month of August? We've got about 10 days into August through August 10th to really bring your burning, unique essence out into the world in the biggest way possible, and then start to move into this retreat and rest mode. So I'll talk more about this as it relates to the impending Mercury retrograde and the eclipses, which are coming in September, starting September 1st. The eclipses are really important to note because up to 6 weeks before the eclipse, which puts us like really in the middle to the end of July, you can start to have major life-changing news that comes in that is eclipse related. Eclipse time is generally a time to hold off on pushing forward with things because often things are going to be coming to you that you have to deal with and you want to be ready for them. But this energy from July 1st through around August 10th is one of the 3 windows in this whole year that we have to push things forward. So I'll talk more about that. But first I want to talk about something specific for Gemini. I'm calling the theme for this month for Geminis, the key to your happiness. And then it's ... And the answer is communication. Now, Geminis are notably good at communicating in general. They are ruled by the planet that rules communication. And unless you have Mercury retrograde, because people that have Mercury retrograde sometimes have challenges with their communication, or unless you have your Mercury aspected or other things in your 3rd house that are bringing challenges, most Geminis I know have a massive capacity for communication. So this month, everything is communication based. If you are someone who is very communicative, it's possible that at least in the first third of the month, it's time for you to bring that in a bigger way. If you're having challenges with your relationships and you're very communicative, it might be time to listen more than talking. The way that energy moves through the energy of Gemini is it's just a constant state of expression. And this makes Gemini energy charming and witty and funny and knowledgeable and having lots of information. And at the same time, you don't always consciously know how to turn that off. And sometimes that's okay. And sometimes it's interfering with things that you want in your life. So maybe you're talking more about certain things that you can talk less about, and maybe you need to talk more about certain other things. So it's very communication based. If you find that you are not being direct, or if you really look into yourself and consider this as a point for you, one of the messages for this month might be to be direct. Something else that might be relevant is to be fearless. Most of the time, people don't get their needs met because they don't articulate them clearly. First of all, we have to be clear about what we want. Second of all, we have to articulate it and be clear about expressing it. So this month might be a time for you to do that. If you're finding that talking to someone about something isn't working, you might write them a letter. Writing something gives you a chance to look at it, see how that person might receive it, change it around so that they can receive it better, and then have your needs met through communicating. Another way of using writing this month might be to write out all the things that are stuck in your mind, or we'll say not stuck in your mind, circling through your mind. The energy of Gemini moves in a spiral. So that's why Gemini energy can tend to talk a lot or communicate a lot, because it's just constantly flowing out as a spiral, and so you're just constantly letting it out. It might be beneficial for you to do a stream of consciousness journaling where all the things that are on your mind that keep looping, that you get them out on paper so that you can look at them. My all-time favorite resource for doing writing exercises that really shift your consciousness is a book called Marriage of Spirit, and that is by Leslie Temple Thurston. If you go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, and you click on Power Tools, you'll see a link there for this book, Marriage of Spirit. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's like, she calls it yoga for Westerners, basically. So even if you're not officially a Westerner, if you have a mindset of a Westerner, you might really be able to benefit from this. Something else that would be great to do this month is to yell in a pillow. Sometimes the things we want to say aren't the things that we should say, and you get blocked up here. If you feel like you've got tension here, or if throat or thyroid problems are coming up for you, even if you feel like you have an easy time expressing, there's probably something stuck in there. And just yelling in a pillow is an amazing thing to do. I think that one of the best things we can do for our children is to teach them that when they're angry, yelling in a pillow is a perfectly acceptable thing to do. I don't know about y'all, but when I was younger, my parents thought that it was a good idea to teach me to not be angry, that I just shouldn't be angry, and that wasn't allowed, and I shouldn't put that negativity out. And they didn't want to deal with it. And I'm not judging them for it. That's just what they were taught. I've come to see that anything that you hold in as a child or an adult has to come out some way, and it doesn't usually come out in a good way if you hold it back. So this practice of yelling in a pillow whenever you get aggravated, whenever you have a lot going on, can really clear your energy field. So think about that as part of this key to your happiness through communication, through yelling in the pillow. Something else that the third house represents and Mercury represents is siblings, cousins, uncles, aunts, relatives that are not your kids, or parents. So connecting with one of these people or doing something meaningful with them might be relevant for you. The other thing that I'd like to recommend for this energy is to get mobile, whether that is with your devices, with your physical body. And again, if you're doing something new and buying a new device, try to have that wrapped up by around August 10th or so. There are some great stars for new things like that in July and into August. But then once you start to move into Mercury retrograde shadow after the 10th, it's not going to be the best time to get a new device if you can help it. But definitely check out my Mercury retrograde video where I go into way more info about this transit. The Mercury retrograde transit runs from August 10th through August 30th. Then it goes retrograde from August 30th through September 22nd. Then the shadow period goes from September 22nd through October 7th. So I would love to talk more about these general transits now and how they can affect you, because the eclipses and this theme for really bringing what you're bringing in a really big way that goes from July into August and then shifting into rest and response mode has more details that I want to talk about. We can break down August into two pretty separate and distinct parts. The first is August 1st through 10th, and the rest is after August 10th for the rest of the month of August. There are energies that are very well sort of defined in that time. And so the first part of August has this theme of burning bright. It's this brilliant Leo energy, and I'll go into more about how to capture, enhance, and really, really use this Leo energy. But first I want to place this period of time, August 1st through August 10th, its importance in the whole scheme of the year. When we finally had Mars go direct at the end of June, that opened up this window that started at the beginning of July and runs through August 10th of this. It's an open window for pushing things through. We've had a massive amount of retrograde energy this year, and we haven't had a lot of windows open for just blazing forward. But one of those windows is now in this beginning of August. So if you are watching this early, great, because you have all of July as well. If you're listening to this later and you have just the beginning part of August, then at least you can use it to its max. So when the stars are going backwards, it lends itself to going backwards, being more relaxed, going back over things, not launching things, not doing new things, not making big decisions. When Mars was in retrograde, there are a whole slew of other things we weren't focusing on or weren't good to focus on. But now in this time period with August 1st through August 10th, it's like you have permission and it's encouraged to just blaze forward. So anything that you have to get done, any kind of launches, any bringing something out into the world, anything where you're doing something officially, like getting an LLC or getting engaged or even getting married, or anything that you're locking into place for a while, this energy is just so good for that. And there are some really beautiful dates. August 1st with Venus and Uranus in a beautiful transit. We've got August 2nd with the new moon in Leo. We've got August 10th with a Mercury and Pluto trine. And there are some other really nice transits throughout the rest of August. But the problem with the rest of August, as far as doing new things or being decisive or launching things, is that as of August 10th, the Mercury shadow period starts again. So every day we get closer to August 30th, between August 10th and August 30th, you're getting more deeply entrenched in that retrograde Mercury energy that's lending itself to short-term things. A misconception about Mercury retrograde is that you can't do anything in Mercury retrograde, and that's totally not true. You can check out my Mercury retrograde blog on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. You can also check out my Mercury retrograde video on my Annie Botticelli YouTube channel to see more about the do's and don'ts and why we have these do's and don'ts. But it's really fine to do things during Mercury retrograde. You just have to understand that they have a shorter shelf life than you usually expect or plan. So if you just plan to do things that are short term during that time, then you're more protected that way. So let's say you have to move. If you move into a place where you have to have a year lease when Mercury's in retrograde, there's a good chance you're not going to finish that lease till the end. But if you can move into a place with a 4 to 6 month lease or a month to month lease, something like that. Or if you're a contractor and you have a short-term contract, if you're starting something short-term, you're more protected. There's still the legality, the agreements, things that could get botched up there or disorganized or not clearly relayed. But it's more of something that you're trying to do longer term, like getting married or like, starting a business, doing something official, launching a brand new website or project that you've been working on forever. Those are things that you want to carry some longevity to them, and you want their birth date to be in a time that's not lending itself to short-term ventures. I can't tell you how many times I've watched businesses in places I've lived open up with great concepts, great customer service, opening in a Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde, or Mercury retrograde time, and they're closed in a very short amount of time. So hopefully that will help you differentiate the energy between a long-term venture started and a short-term venture. So if you're trying to do something long-term, get it busted out by August 10th. If you're doing something short-term, you have more opportunity to work with things. So something else that is important about the month of August is that you're prime in the energy of eclipse season. Eclipse season happens twice a year, and it's usually associated with major changes. For some people, it's completely life-altering changes. For others, you have to kind of look a little bit to really notice what the changes are. Maybe it's a subtle change in perception. Maybe it's a different direction you're moving in, but it doesn't feel like a big deal, but it's something different. Depending on how the eclipse is hit in your personal chart, is usually going to show you the magnitude of the experience for you. So when you've got the 4 to 6 week period before the eclipses start, anytime news can come in. These eclipses have a long range opportunity for bringing news. So the first eclipse is September 1st. That's a solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Virgo. The second eclipse is September 16th. It's a lunar eclipse at 24 degrees of Pisces. And so we're continuing into this Pisces-Virgo polarity that has been going on for a while. It's going to carry us into 2017 with its effects. So usually the recommendation for eclipse time is to rest and respond, because things will likely happen that will need your attention. It might be that you're supporting someone else or other people who are having the radical change, but you need to be there to show up for them. It might be that you're the one having the big changes, or it might be both. So it's not generally recommended to blaze forward or push things through or take things on during the eclipse time, because you want to keep your plate clear so that when news comes in, you're ready to respond. Very often someone will do something decisive during an eclipse time, only 1 or 2 weeks later to have something happen that totally, changes the direction. I'm going to talk at length about the eclipses next month, because that's the month they actually occur in. But I really had to mention them now because many people are going to start to get life-changing news. And I want you to understand them in the broader perspective of things, that, it's the time to sort of rest and respond. So that's why I'm calling this month, the theme is burn bright and then rest and respond, because with all these planets in Leo, we have these opportunities with everything Leo based, which is very much centered around just burning brightly, creativity, happiness, joy, romance, fun. Some questions to ask that can really assist you with maximizing the Leo energies is, how can you burn more brightly? Are you really rocking your life? You know, if you're not, this Leo energy can really help you to do that. Leo rules anything from being fabulous with your hair and your clothing to being fabulous with your gifts and your talents, acting, singing, instruments, athleticism. You know, this energy of Leo is just very much embodying burning bright, how you're showing up in the world, your creativity, what makes you sizzle. So you can ask the questions, what needs to happen for you to feel more inspired? How can you change your routine? How can you bring things into your life that make you feel excited and ready to burn bright? How can you have more fun? How can you have more romance in your life? These are questions to ask and answer when you have a strong amount of Leo energy. So this started in July. So if you're watching early, you can really start to maximize this. And then really until like that first third of August, up until around August 10th, that Leo energy is just absolutely sizzling. And then it starts to fade more into Virgo being in more dominance. Other questions to ask with the Leo energy is, how can you step more into leadership? Many times we can learn a lot more by teaching, and sometimes there are opportunities around for us to step into that place and we're not feeling ready to take them. But this period of time is the one where it's time to try to step into that. I have a really good friend who is an artist, and she has a lot of Leo energy, but she hasn't really been stepping into a role of teaching or leadership. She's been very unique in her expression. And then some opportunities came along where she had a chance to start teaching. And that makes me think of this energy where she was like, gosh, I've never done that before. And she was almost going to say no to it, except that I happened to be there with her when this opportunity was presented. And I was like, hello, you need to do that right now. You know, and that's what this energy is like. If you don't think of yourself as a teacher, if you don't think of yourself as someone that can stand before someone and lead them into something, maybe it's time to rethink that, because so many people are really supposed to be stepping into that, and this is the energy that can assist you. How can you have more enriched and enriching relationships with children? How can you bring this childlike wonder of awe and inspiration into your daily life? These are all Leo-based energies, so you can have a lot of great practices around how can you be more Leo-like in this time to really, really just burn bright. Then the energy shifts, and the Virgo energy is present all month, but it shifts into more strength after the first third of the month. And that's when you can start asking these questions more, like, how can you get better systems together? How can you get more organized? How can you be more disciplined and have an attitude of service? There's so much that is dependent on how we approach things, you know? Approaching something with a humble heart is an amazing spiritual practice. I think maybe we've all come into connection with someone who is not in the spirit of humble service, you know, and so you might think, well, if you've accomplished a lot, then you're not in that place of service anymore. You're doing service so that you can get into your other place. Some people think this. And I don't believe it's true. As spiritual beings having a human experience, having an attitude of being in service to humanity is a very important question for your fulfillment. And this energy of Virgo can assist you with really embodying being in service to humanity, having better and more interactions with animals and pets, how you can improve your health, how you can improve your diet and your lifestyle and your regimen, how you can improve your daily experience. That's a big one. And how smart can you work? This is a theme that you've heard coming up for a while, because Jupiter has been in Virgo, and so everything Virgo has been expanded since last summer. And in August, we're at the end of Jupiter expanding Virgo. So all of these Virgo lessons that the personal planets are bringing up very strongly in short term this month is like the culmination of this long-term energy with Jupiter and Virgo saying, how can you leave this transit with better systems in place, everything more organized and productive, everything more fulfilling? you enjoying everything more because everything is well organized, having more discipline in the right places, maybe having less discipline in certain places, and really, in some ways, most importantly, how smart can you work? So many of us are programmed that you have to work hard, and that really gets into your psyche. You have to work hard, and you might find yourself always asking, why am I working so hard? It doesn't have to be that hard. That's a good question, and it doesn't have to be that way. And this transit in the short term, with all of this culmination of Virgo energy and this ending of Virgo with Jupiter energy, is really saying, okay, why don't you work smarter? I made a recommendation, I think it was last month, called a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. The 4-Hour Work Week is just a phenomenal book that can help change your mindset, plus give you practical things to do just to work less and make more, which makes a lot of sense. So the overview of the month again is the first third of the month, August up through August 10th. You want to burn bright, do all your launches, do all your initiating, and then start to move into this rest and response mode. Mercury goes retrograde August 30th. That runs through September 22nd. The shadow period starts August, well, pretty much it's around August 10th. That's why there's that cutoff. And then the shadow period at the end runs until October 7th. So once this window closes August 10th, you're kind of in quiet, not launching response mode until October 7th. And then you've got the last window of the year, which in coming months I'll talk at length about, August 7th through the first days of December, which is our last window of the year to really push things forward. So try to do what you can until August 10th. Anything you can't get done, just table it, rework it, and then wait for your final launch period of 2016. And that's a really important one too, because Venus is going to be retrograde early in 2017. So you're going to want to bust out as many things in that last window of the year as possible. So take it in consideration when you're making your plans. So if you'd like some assistance with putting all this into practice, go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out my blogs, sign up for my free email newsletter, which makes you part of my community, gives you access to all kinds of cool things. If you want some self-development assistance, Unleash Your Money Magnet, Shine, my 28-day virtual coaching program, and my Subliminal Train Your Brain programs are all on there. Also, if you'd like to learn astrology, depending on when you're listening to this, there might be a few slots left in my Astrology Apprenticeship program, which is where you join with a group of fellow astrological zealots with me on a journey through the stars and yourselves. And if you're interested in taking your healing business online, check out my Creating Successful Online Business course. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.